Happy Monday. Welcome to the Wellness Movement. I have a little co-star here, Coco. This is the Wellness Movement. So you are watching Spanglish World and Her Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Remember to download the Zingo TV app on your app store. It's free. Leave a review. And Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku, and Roku Sticks on all smart TVs from 2016 forward. What is it, Coco? I have a friend here. So today I have a guest, not just Coco. I have a guest, Alex Dumas. My butcher.
It's all right. You're good.
Tell me how I say it properly.
The proper way is Dumas, but Dumas I'll accept.
Dumas, like French?
Yep, yeah, French style.
Okay,
yep.
Got it. We're going to talk about that. So Alex Dumas is the co-founder and CEO of Abundance Daily Coaching. He is an expert in sales and marketing with a track record of generating six figures in revenue and six-figure launches. He has a background in psychology and a decade of leadership experience in the nonprofit world. And he also knows what it's like to do everything that's expected of you and still feel empty. He struggled for years, but hid behind jokes and seeking approval so he could fit in. It was really a mask for the pain and loneliness he constantly felt. And it led to using drugs for years and keeping anyone who wanted to get close at arm's length. Leaders who are stuck in feelings of scarcity, indecision, and negative thinking, but want to build high-performance business of their own are the ones who call Alex. Oh my God, there's so much here. I don't know where to start. The Dumas, let's start there, your last name.
Yeah. My parents are originally from Haiti and came out here to the United States in the 70s. So obviously Haiti being a French colony, that's where the Dumas comes in. And my namesake, the full presentation, Alexandre Dumas, like obviously Count of Monte Cristo, I'm named after that author. So that's kind of the lineage in a sense.
So do you speak French?
No, I do not at the moment. I am probably one of the aliens in my family that just didn't pick up Creole and French. It just didn't happen. I don't know why, how, but it didn't. But it's something I'm actively looking to turn around and help with my kids and share that with them, because it's important. It's their mother tongue, so it's important to know that. Right.
Amazing. Well, you could try and see if you can move to France for a period of time.
Yeah, honestly, that's the best way to learn anything. Just get immersed in it, and once there's no way out, like I'm gonna have to figure it out. I'm gonna have to learn to say more than un, deux, trois. Like I'll have to s'il vous plaît. I'll have to pick up a few more things in that to survive.
If you lived in Canada, you could go to a French immersion school. You could also, when you go to public school, we do get mandatory French classes. Although I'll be very honest, I have not learned French effectively. So my plan is very much to camp out in Paris or something to actually learn the language. So where did your parents actually land in the U.S.?
They landed in New York, and they were from two different areas of Haiti, and I guess through friends, at least from what my dad explained, they met, fell in love, had some babies, and built a great life. Yeah.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. It's an immigrant love story.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty cool. I think. So, what part of New York were they in?
I'm not exactly sure where they wound up landing, but our family was lived in Brooklyn for a number of years. They moved to Long Island when I was about 4 years old. So growing up in Long Island, New York was pretty much what I knew. But my brothers and my sister got the full Brooklyn experience and got to see a lot of different things. And just had a lot of fun. Me, I grew up in the suburbs, so I'm a little protected suburban baby. You know, I'm the youngest of the four. They saved the best for last, as I like to say, and it
I'm
worked
sure
out
your
that way.
siblings agree, right?
They have no choice to.
Yeah. So, like, where are you now in the US?
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina. Me and my family, my wife, my two kids, the dogs. We moved out here about 4 years ago. Yeah, almost 4 years ago, and yeah, this is where we've been. Not sure it's completely home yet. We'll see what the future holds for us, but for right now, it's definitely not going back to New York. So that's you can put that X on the map for that. Like that's we're not going back.
Right, right. Cool. So I'm curious, like with your background, like the dive into drugs, like what happened?
Yes. Yeah,
We'll
I don't know if we
start
have.
there. Don't worry, we'll get happier places.
No, no, no. It's fine. That's fine. Yeah, a lot of it was just kind of feeling out of place for a long time. As a kid, the closest relative in age to me was 6 years. My closest brother in age was 6 years older than me. So I'm kind of like tagging along. I'm a little puppy dog. They're all kind of grown, and each phase in life, it's like I go to eighth grade. I'm in middle school. They're in high school. I get to
Mhm.
high school. They're in college. It's like everybody's gone. They're doing their thing. It's no fault of theirs. They're developing. They're growing, and yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors. I mean, out of place, kind of in the family. Out of place with schools. My parents were really big on education, so I meant going to predominantly white Catholic schools, and me being probably one, two, maybe three black faces in a room. It's awkward. It's weird.
Mhm.
And so you grow up with that. So this all these different little pieces of me in my head not belonging, not fitting in, and trying different things, and eventually getting introduced to drugs. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is masking what, or this is putting a costume on me. Like, all right, I don't have to feel uh, alone anymore. But the irony is, like, the more you do that, you have to keep things a secret. You have to push people away from you
Mhm.
because you don't want them to know this other side. It's like,
Right.
oh my goodness, what will they think if they knew this, or they smell this, they know that I'm doing these things. So as much as I look for that to try to belong with people, it actually really isolated me even more, which
Mhm.
is I laugh about it now. Like that's it's the big joke of all time for me. Of
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
So what were your drugs of choice?
mainly weed. That was like the big one. But dabble in a lot of other things. Some cocaine, alcohol, um, some pills. I mean, all those other things were like kind of like here and there, like dabbled
Mhm.
this and that, but it was like mainly like just being like a major bum pothead loser and just all day consuming. It was just like
Mhm.
all day. We finished this. I'm like, oh, where's the next one? And it's just and then being a broke high school kid, college kids, like, all right, what do we do to get this money? All right, well, we got to go hustle up some things, steal from people, take things,
Mhm.
and do what we thought it took to get what we wanted, and
Right.
that's what it
So
is.
what would you say, like, for you? Because I mean, there's people who spend their entire lives like that,
Yeah.
right? That's just how they do life. They're they're hustling to get whatever cash money they need so that they can buy drugs, alcohol, whatever. Um, and that's their entire life. They go down this rabbit hole and they just never come out. And so, why do you like? What was kind of your wake up call? What made you decide to, I guess, turn the corner, try something else?
Yeah. I would say I was just getting really bored with it. It
Hmm.
just wasn't fun anymore, and and meeting my wife was kind of like one of the big catalyst in turning that around. We met, I was 22, she was 18, so just getting out of high school. I'm about to graduate college, and we met on on MySpace. So this is me dating myself right now of like how ancient I am. But
Kids, there was something called MySpace. Please
yeah.
Google it.
Yeah, just a quick sidebar. I saw this funny meme the other day of like someone saying like, "Oh, I wish there was a way to play music on my Instagram feed or something like that." And somebody was like, "Oh, you mean MySpace? That's what MySpace was." And so it just that just cracked me up. But going back to the story, yeah, meeting my wife Sarah, and she was coming out of a crazy place. I was in this weird world, and yeah, I just found like kind of purpose with her. I was like, all right, this is I have somewhere else to drive my attention
Mhm.
versus this. And then a couple of different situations were going on in our world. We're just like, all right, it's time to like get out of this because nothing good's gonna happen
Right,
if I
right, right.
continue. So
Yeah. So then what was your next step?
yeah, my next step was to really stop hanging out with like my buddies back in the neighborhood and just kind of start to put my distance away. And that was the big thing. And just stopping completely. It couldn't be like, all right, once a week thing. Like that's not how my mind was at the time. Like as an addict, as a person who consumes, like there's no end. Like once it's like you think about like the alcoholic, they have that one drip that was like that one little doop, drip on their tongue of alcohol, and it's like the cage is open, you let them loose, and it was the same way for me. So I knew that I had to really be careful and stay away from any trigger, anything that could set me over the edge. And I've been able to do that for a long time. So really happy about that.
What would you say to like people like young kids who are kind of in that similar, because I think like I was like a super nerdy kid. Like you, the schools that I went to were predominantly white. There were not a lot of black and brown faces in the room. And
Yeah.
so I'm very much used to being the only brown person in a room where I was. And so I would like, I was in this super nerdy class when I was in high school. I was in this accelerated gifted program, but I felt like really out of place. And so for a very brief period of time in my high school career, I hung out with like, maybe it was like 3 or 4 kids that were into drinking, you know, they
Yeah.
weren't into drugs, they were into drinking. And so we would go over to this one kid's house at lunchtime. None of the parents were around because obviously they're working,
Right.
and have like a beer or two. And oh, yeah, we were so bad. But I think like that period maybe lasted 2 or 3 months in my life. And then I just was like, what am I doing? Like, I got stuff to do. I've got important things going on. I got to graduate. I got to keep my GPA and all that. So, but I think like that feeling of, um, not fitting in, feeling like there's something, like everybody else is almost cooler than you. Like, I think a lot of people go through that phase in their life, like in school and sometimes even outside of school. What would you say to anyone who feels like that, like especially in school?
Yeah. I would definitely and sorry for the dogs right now. I have somebody who's doing repair at the house. So this is what's going on right here.
This
So
is hashtag working from home life.
yeah, this is yeah. So I'm gonna answer this question. I don't know if it's all right if I can step out for a second to talk to this person. I feel terrible about it, but I'll say this for a young person who's having these challenges or having this feeling of not fitting in. That's pretty cool. You be fine with that. Be comfortable with being weird, quote unquote,
Mhm.
because nobody else can do you like you do. Nobody can be you. And the minute you are able to not compare yourself with other people and
Mhm.
not put other people on a pedestal and be okay with yourself, life gets a lot easier, because you know what? At the end of the day, they're not really thinking about you. They're thinking about what you're thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a psychology game. It's like, I'm not really. I'm not thinking about Julie. I'm thinking, what is Julie thinking about me right now? Oh my God! Like, is she noticing my shirt? Is she noticing where? Does she notice what music I listen to? And all those things are just. It's just a phase in life.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is. So, as I
Yeah.
say that, I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take hopefully a quick 30-second
Yeah.
interruption. So I apologize.
I will introduce Coco and Harley to the show, and then yeah. So yes, we're doing a live show, and hey, Coco, this is Coco. Coco is quiet right now, but sometimes she's like super loud. And then this is Harley, who's always chill, right? Yeah, so I mean, just kind of going back to the theme of what we're really talking about is all of us have this urge, this desire. It's wired into us as human beings. Like, we want to be accepted, we want to be a part of the tribe, because back in prehistoric days, in olden days, pre-MySpace, we needed the pack. We needed the pack to survive, right? And so that's still very much a part of who we are, right? But it's also important to understand that everybody's weird in their own way. Everybody's got their stuff, and it's more important to be authentically you, because what happens is when you're authentic. Hey, Alex, I went off on it. Alex,
No, it's all right. Back to life.
So just to kind of fill you in, I was just talking about how in prehistoric times, pre-MySpace days, when we were hunter-gatherers, we counted on the pack to survive, right? We needed that acceptance from the tribe. And so that's still very much wired in us, that of course we want to be liked, we want to be accepted, we want to be celebrated, we want to be validated. That's like kind of hard wiring. But one of the things I've realized is when I let my inner weirdo out, instead of trying to fit in with people who maybe don't have the same values as me and the same ethics or the same morals, I attract into my circle people who are more in line with who I am. And you don't need thousands of people, because realistically our human mind can't actually, even though people will have like thousands of people following them on Instagram or social media or whatever, in reality, we can only have deep, meaningful relationships with a handful of people, right? Yeah. So you want to find your handful of people that you can be real with, be authentic with, because that's what's going to help you evolve and transform. And, you know, over time, those people can change too, as you change. Like, sometimes you evolve past people, right? Like, you know, I've had that experience a few times. Like, oh, okay, I guess we're not at the same wavelength.
Yeah. And, you know, even with like, you know, just kind of go back to like the young folks, you know, with the social media, it's this weird programming of like, I got to get the likes, you know, and I relate this to business. It's not about how many people like what you do. That's cute, that's fun, that's okay. But what makes the big impact is the people that love you, the people that are like your people, that are your folks, that are like, man, Julie, whatever, if she's putting out something, I'm gonna ride or die. I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna comment on it. I'm gonna be a part of this wave. Versus somebody who's just kind of casually like, okay, yeah, great, okay. It's just a default,
Right.
thumbs up, and that doesn't create anything. Imagine, just throwing out here for context, like say Gandhi, right? Say a bunch of people in India were just like, oh yeah, Gandhi, yeah, he's doing something really cool and powerful. That's nice. That doesn't lead to them freeing themselves from the British. If it was just a bunch of likes, there are people out there that are like, oh, this is they metabolize it. It's a movement. It's something inside of them that they can see. They resonate with his vision so much, and he connected the dots to them, that it's in their heart now. It's love. It's real love. It's not this, yeah, that's great, good to, it's not a casual thing. This is, I might be willing to give my life for this. I might be
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice my freedom for this. And I'm not saying as a teenager or young adult you have to rally people to you in such a magnetic and serious way. But at the end of the day, if somebody is not with you, then it's right. They're not for you. And that's okay. There's no judgment. It's
Yeah.
just they're not your people.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll just trust that you're going to find your people.
Yeah.
Because you do. Because you do.
Yeah.
So you ended up going to school for psychology. What was the draw there?
Yeah. A couple of things that as I kind of reflect back on it, I think one of the big things was me trying to get a better understanding of myself, trying to figure out like what is quote unquote wrong with me, like thinking about the outside advantages of in a two-parent household. I'm loved. I have cousins. I have friends in my neighborhood. I'm fairly athletic, playing sports. Could do better in school, but that's whatever. That's but all these different things, and then for me, I had that on the outside, but yet on the inside, I'm miserable. I'm lonely. I'm depressed. I'm like, what is happening? So I wanted to look for that as for answers, and I've always been just curious about people, behaviors, habits, why we do what we do. I'm always, my mind is always going to like origins of things, like it's like, how did we get milk? Who was the first person to milk a cow? I think of stuff like that because that's not a usual thing. It's not, you don't walk by a cow like, oh, there might be milk in there. If you never saw a cow before in your life, if you were the only person on earth and you're just like, maybe if I shoot down this bird, I can make feathers and make myself warm. Like, how does somebody think of stuff like that? So that was a draw for psychology to me. I was looking at abnormal psychology specifically. I loved like, why do, and this might, going back to the darkness, right? Like, why does like somebody like Hitler be created? Like, what made him flip that switch to like, I'm just going to murder a bunch of people? What makes people do all these different things that you look on the outside like that doesn't make any sense, but in their head it's like, oh yeah, this is perfectly rational. This is, we have to wipe out this race of people. We have to harm people in this way. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, I think it's important to, I probably kind of wonder about the same stuff sometimes too. And I also wonder about, I do wonder about what makes people tick.
Yeah.
I also like people's beliefs and where those belief systems come from. I tend to question a lot of things, especially in the last year and a half. Like, I don't just like take what the media is feeding me and go, oh, okay, all right. Like, I'm always asking questions. I don't know if I got that habit from when I was like in school, where you're taught to like really think critically of like, where are these messages coming from? Who's behind them? Who's profiting? What is like, is there kind of like a hidden motive, and all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of can go down that slippery slope of trying to understand deeper. And sometimes I wish, I do kind of look around me sometimes and go, oh, a lot of people don't question, right? Like, it's, there's a reason why it's called mass media, mass advertising, because the masses tend to not ask these questions. They go, and it's almost like a formula, right? Like, if your life was a formula, you're raised in a home, hopefully to a good family. You go to school. You keep going to school until you get some kind of a degree, and then you're supposed to get a job. You're somewhere along the line, you're supposed to meet someone. You get married and you have some kids, and you should live in a certain neighborhood with certain possessions and certain amount. And that's a formula. And I think that most people buy into that formula pretty heavily. I'm not one of those people. So I look around me and I just happen to live in a community where there's a lot of people who have that formula. And I kind of go, I wonder if they're really happy, or is the formula making them miserable?
Yeah. And that's a programming from birth, or from young age, where we get this terrible affliction called a personality, right? It's this fixed thing. I am this way. I have always been this way, and I will. There's nothing I can do about it, and that's not really true. At least in my opinion, as far as being creative, being full of spirit, and kind of going along with, well, this is the way you dress when you're in school. This is the way you talk. This is the way you do this. Why? Well, because everybody else is doing it. Just follow the procedure, follow the program. Well, what if I want to, like, everybody's listening to Jay-Z. What if I want to listen to to Led Zeppelin or something, or listen to Jimi Hendrix? No, that's you're on the outside now. You're one of those stay on the outside of the wall here.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Like, it's interesting to ask these questions of, like, why am I the way that I am, and where did that message come from? Because, like, especially if something's not making you, if the way things aren't making you happy, it's important to start asking those deeper questions to try and unearth where you might actually want to be more. Possibly.
It's that program of pleasing. As young kids, Julie, you were such a good girl in the store. Mommy's going to give you a lollipop and a sticker. You did a good job. And we take that stuff and, like, right now I have confetti on my desk because my kids we did a graduation for homeschool. So this is a star, right? If you can see that. So every week, everybody I remember, like, in first grade, second grade, having, like, the sheet in the room. It's like, the gold star. Oh my God, I have 10 gold stars. I'm almost here. And we get programmed to please people versus serve them. And it's weird when that happens in adulthood, when we still have this pleasing mentality. You may have experienced this, in your younger life, of, say, going out to a nightclub and a guy's around you, he buys you a drink, and he's like, now he's on your arm for the rest of the night. He's like, "That's my drink. I'm trying to please you." Or, "Hey, Julie, what can I do anything for you? Can I help you?" And it gets weird. It gets creepy. It's like, get away from me. Don't, like, do you have a backbone? Do you have a spine? Can you think for yourself? No, I just want to do you know what, Julie? I don't have a backbone. And they just agree with you. They just, well, and that's, and going back to the masses things, like, well, what's your train of thought? Like, are you thinking? What are you thinking about? Someone says wear a mask. Okay, why? Someone says don't wear a mask. Okay, why? Take a vaccine. Why?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you an anti-vaxxer or anti-masker, or all this weird division that we have. It's just, I'm just curious, like, how does this help me, and how does this help other people not allow this particular disease to spread, or flatten a curve, as they like to say? How does it help? If it does make a difference, okay, willing to do it. If it doesn't, then what else can we do?
So this is a slightly off topic. We'll get back to it.
I know. I'm sorry.
I've wondered since the beginning of all this, like, where is the narrative where we talk to people about their own personal health and taking responsibility for their own personal health? I mean, that's something that I've noticed never gets brought up.
Yeah.
And I just think it's very interesting. I'm like, wow, how come a year and a half into this, nobody's talked about getting healthy?
Taking some vitamins.
Eat some veggies, get some sunshine, get off the couch, move your body.
I know,
I'm just being radical here, but
yeah, it's boy, you know what? Whatever. It's a lot easier to shove that pill in their mouth or do whatever, versus really explore, well, what can I do? If it means 20 minutes every day of just a light jog, a walk, something, and that feeds your spirit too.
Hmm.
When I get outside, you get the fresh air. It's like, oh, you can think again. It hits your body differently versus, all right, I'm on the couch. Oh no, they're telling me this is going wrong. This is going wrong. Let me scroll on my phone. Let me sure everything is still going wrong on my phone. Oh my goodness, it is. Of course,
let, me
everything's going
hear,
wrong.
let me hear some more bad news that I have
Yeah,
zero control over.
I
Just
need
make
some more of
myself
this.
feel bad about
Yeah,
what's going on to feed into the badness, the collective fear
yeah.
that everybody's feeling. Like, let's just plug in to the system.
It and it's just this endless vicious cycle, and you know, it it's challenging to watch that. It's challenging to watch people be in fear
Hmm.
because fear and love, they can't exist at the same place at the same time.
Right.
What would happen if we chose a little bit more love? I know people are people. I'm not saying this is a flower power, kumbaya, everything's going to work out magical world, but just within your own self. Hey,
Hmm.
what would happen if I chose to treat myself a little bit better today?
Right.
What if I chose to think more in terms of ownership of, oh, I created whatever it is around me or my situation.
Hmm.
Maybe there's opportunity I can think my way out of it or think my way into a situation that serves me more.
Yeah,
It's possible. Just
it is.
throwing it out there for you folks.
It's so funny because, like, a friend of mine left a message today for me, and she said, you know, something happened and I wanted to make myself feel better. So I went and she got herself some drink, right? In the grand scheme of drinks, it wasn't that bad. It was like some coffee drink, right? But I think
Yeah.
she's trying to avoid caffeine. So she's like, isn't it interesting that I wanted to feel better? And in my way of trying to feel better, I went and I got this thing that doesn't really make me feel better. It
Mm,
actually makes me feel worse. And why is that? And I said, well, it's marketing, right? Like, in marketing, we're told if you do this, this, and this, like if you buy this thing, if you consume this thing, if you have this thing, you're going to feel better. And we avoid doing the things that actually will truly make us feel better.
yeah.
Like, whether it's getting enough sleep, exercise, like, a lot of people have this whole idea of like self-care, right? Like, in women's world, women, the way we're usually marketed to is self-care is going to the spa, right?
I was gonna
Going to
say,
the spa, going shopping, having wine with the ladies, that's self-care. Now, notice that, I mean, the spa could be possibly rejuvenating depending on what kind of treatments you're doing. Like, if you're just getting your nails done, I mean, I guess, but what about the things that truly make you feel better? Like managing your stress levels, getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, doing what you can to sort of distance yourself from the things that are causing you stress in your life. Like, what about the things that are truly self care, exercise? Those things don't get shared or talked about in advertising the way that the other stuff gets shared and talked about. So I just find it really, really interesting. And I'm sure for the guys, it's really similar. Like, they don't call it self-care, but it's like, you watch the game, you have some beers, you eat some wings, you're
yeah,
like buddy buddy, right? But like, I look around, I go, wow, there's a lot of people that are not looking that healthy or feeling that healthy.
yeah,
And they're really stressed out. So obviously the things that they're doing aren't helping them, right?
yeah. It's
So
interesting thing you said about self care because a lot of those activities are outside, right? I have to go find happiness somewhere. Oh, I'm miserable. I need to go to this spa. I need to go to the bar. I need to go somewhere so that
mhm.
I can feel happy. And it's the other way around. It's the inside game first. It's
Yeah.
wow. What makes me happy? Oh, I can pick up an instrument, play some music, or do some push-ups in my house, or just read a book, or
Yeah.
you know what? Maybe you just sit in silence, sit outside, jump
Mhm.
jump around. Doesn't matter. Um, but it's there's always been this like a narrative of there's something outside of you that's way more fun, that's way more interesting. You have to go spend money, spend time, do that because
Mhm.
you, as your deficient, defective self, you can't make yourself happy. You have to come here. You have to
Yeah.
come to my place to find this happiness and find this fulfillment.
Yeah. And I'm saying this not to say that inherently all those things are bad, but it's also understanding that, um, yeah, as the saying goes, happiness is an inside job. And sure, you can go to this, like, I have a spa day planned with my girls later in the summer, right? I totally do those things. But on a day to day basis of what my self care looks like, it looks like meditation, prayer, journaling, exercise, yoga,
Yeah,
eating healthy foods. That, like, to me, taking care of yourself is actually the highest form of self respect and self love you can have for yourself, right?
yeah,
And to me, like, feeding yourself foods that we know are harmful for health, it's a form of disrespect, really, you know.
yeah. And even when it shows up in my world, in the world of coaching, taking care of myself allows me to take care of prospective clients and existing clients
Hmm.
so much more effectively because my mind is slowed down where I can be with them. I can be present. I'm not in this frantic state to get into my future and race around because like, I need to find my happiness outside. I'm satisfied within, and I find ways to feed my spirit. I'm not going into a call of God. I wish I had played some more music, not to go talk to this person, and you're resenting them almost because
Yeah.
they are taking the time that you set aside for them. But when I'm feeling good, when I'm feeling optimal, I've had good rest. I've when I'm feeling like as you call it peak performance.
Hmm.
Wow, it makes a conversation with somebody so much more better, so much more effective because I can really dive into them. I can take the attention off of myself, keep a little bit within, but really a lot is geared toward them versus me sitting across like, oh man, I'm really hungry right now. Boy, I should have had a steak before I jumped on these back to back to back calls or whatever. Or I should have like maybe I'll sleep a little bit early and your mind is drifting and the
Hmm.
person is maybe pouring their heart out to you or trying to create a strategy, whatever, and your mind is thinking about some Oreos or
Right.
something crazy. So it all
Right.
ties together. It's all intermingled. Oops, my
So
rock.
So do you like, so you come from like a sales and marketing background,
Hmm.
and you help people, I guess. Is it that, is it in terms of like launching their businesses or launching specific programs?
Yeah, in the past it was a bit of that, but I've really looked at now kind of more what we've been talking about as far as like the internal game and really kind of what I like to define it as like really getting in touch back with your true identity.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of goes back full circle what you asked me about. What would I tell a young person and what was the thing that was going on in my world that led me into these different paths? And that was all about identity.
Mm-hmm.
I created a personality that didn't really fit who I really was. And every action was to fill a gap with this personality, this deficiency. And when I'm working with entrepreneurs, coaches, it's similar questions like, oh, how do I do this? How do I, whatever it might be, how do I create more clients? How do I launch a business the right way? Well, it's really looking at who are you first?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you really? Like, what drives you? What fills you up? What lights you with energy?
Mm-hmm.
And we can really successfully capture those things and remember your brilliance, your genius of like what have you succeeded in the past? What have you excelled at?
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody else has been able to do those things at that time like you did. And when we start to remember, like, oh yeah, that's who I really am. Now your energy raises up, your vibration raises up, and you can create more in the world and serve more versus being low level, low, just not dreaming, not believing. I play with people this way. I want to help people shift from beliefs to certainty, because certainty allows someone to be that confident, um, to just be fully aware of what's going on around them. When I believe stuff like, oh, that my belief can shift in any moment. I believe the sky was blue. Someone could be like, well, it's actually purple. I believe that now.
Right.
The world is flat. Well, nope, the world is round. All right, world is round now. That's what it is. I mean, for you flat earthers out there, the world is actually round. So I'm gonna trigger some people out there. It's round. It's not flat. I'm just using an example. But when we can get to certainty now, it's like I don't have to. Excuse me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think like, oh, am I a good person? Am I a good coach? Am I a good entrepreneur? Like I have evidence.
Right. Yeah.
I have I have proof of what I do. I don't have to be like, well, I hope this person thinks I'm a good coach. And well, no, like I know what I do. I know what I bring.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it just goes back to like, your zone of genius. And so that's what you put out there. And that's what, I mean, unfortunately, I come across a lot of entrepreneurs who just spend a lot of time second guessing themselves,
Yeah.
right? It's like 1 week it's this strategy, 2 weeks later it's something totally different. And I'm like, I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. Like, what are you doing now? Like, what are you doing now? Right. And I think it just kind of goes back to they just don't have enough confidence in who they are to kind of they're not getting behind themselves. And so why would anybody get behind them?
Yeah. You got to be
Right.
your biggest. You got to be the cheerleader and the star player, right? Go, Alex. Go, 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 go. And then I'm in the field, as far as conversations go, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I can do this. I've done this before. There's nothing different, and I bring my skill set. I bring my energy, my intangibles, and
Mhm.
we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, confidence is a big thing. It's like people, from what I see, confuse it, believing that they think it's a requirement to take action. Like, oh, I'm gonna go lose that 50 pounds or whatever once I start getting more confident. Like, no, that's a process of it.
Mhm.
The confidence builds as you do.
Yeah.
You don't get confident driving. The first time behind the wheel, like, all right, as soon as I get more confidence, I'm gonna start driving. You gotta like miss a stop sign. You gotta like herky
Yeah.
jerky the car for a little bit to understand. Oh, now I can do this smoothly. I can make a turn. I can make a 3-point turn. I can parallel park. You don't
So
get that from reading it.
I have sort of like two things. What's interesting because parallel to, so before I was doing this, before I was holistic nutritionist slash health coach, I taught yoga for a long time and I had a parallel career as an actor. And it's interesting because in both those spheres, I kind of played small, right? I played small. I didn't really talk myself up much. I kind of like just wanted to be under the radar, which is kind of an interesting strategy as an actor. I don't recommend it. And I realized that the show business itself is very, very tough for anybody. It definitely takes a toll on your self-esteem because 99.9% of the time you're not going to get the job, and it's okay. It's not a testament of your talent or who you are as a human being. But it's interesting because like as I shifted into coaching, I had to like undo a lot of that stuff. I had to kind of take apart those old stories and just kind of rip them to shreds. But with yoga practice, like certain poses will always bring up fear, right? If you're going upside down, if you're doing crazy back bends, and it's funny because like on my yoga mat, I would be willing to go there because I was curious to see like what would happen in my brain to finally bust through. So I don't know if you follow me on Instagram or not. We may not follow each other there, but I ride a motorcycle. I ride a Harley, and it's not a light bike. It's like a sport bike would be much lighter. It's a heavy bike. It's a heavy, heavy bike. And last year I didn't get a lot of miles in with everything that was going on. There was nowhere to go. Everything was locked down. So this year I was like, okay, I'm going to get out on the bike. I need to get out on the bike. Last Monday we got on the bike and it was nerve-wracking, right? Every time I came into a turn that I didn't quite felt was too narrow or just like uncertain road conditions, it kind of shook me. And so I said to my guy, I said, we got to get back on the bike on the weekend. We gotta get out on the road. And like I made myself do it because I know that there's a little bit of fear in me around being on the bike, right? I don't have to be on the bike, right? I could just leave the bike parked in the garage like it was last summer. But I'm like, no, I want to be on the bike. And but it's also like I want to face the fear.
Yeah.
I want to work through the fear. And I knew that I know instinctually the more time I spend on the bike, maneuvering it, especially at slow speeds,
Yeah.
because riding fast is easy. Anyone who rides a motorcycle, you can ride fast, but it's having that ability to really control a machine at a slow pace that is all about skill.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
I've had even in riding on Saturday and riding on Sunday, I had like a couple of sort of uncertain things, like almost dropped the bike once.
Oh my God.
Which I'll tell you, if you've got a Harley and you drop that damn bike, it's 1,000 pounds. It's not so easy to lift, right? And I'm not a big person, so but I'm glad I showed up for myself and I decided to do it. Like even yesterday I was on the bike so Saturday we rode together, but yesterday I went out on my own and I had something to do. And my guy was a little bit nervous for me. He's like, maybe you should just take the car. I'm like, nope, I'm taking the bike.
Mm.
I'm taking the bike. It's an hour one way, it's an hour the other way. I need to be on the road. I need to practice. And that's really, to me, that's the philosophy for everything in life. You're probably going to suck in the beginning. I've dropped my bike a bunch of times, but I've survived every single time. And I think it's just like as you practice, you gain confidence. Like,
Yeah.
and for me, I had to remind myself as I was on the bike, I was like, I've ridden this bike from Toronto to Vancouver and back. I can do this. Like I had to remind myself, I'm like, I have the ability to do this because I've gone from here to there and back in one piece. There's no way that I can't do this. So it's the same philosophy, whether you're running a business or doing anything else.
100%. Yeah. Get your jersey dirty, as I like to throw in the sports analogies. A lot of people are in the stands, wishing, wanting, and some people that's where they're meant to be. Cheer on, do that stuff. But for the people that want to play and play to win, it's pretty much impossible to look good and get better in the same time. You're gonna look silly, you're gonna look foolish, you're gonna embarrass yourself, and that's all tied to ego and personality, all that middle school, high school stuff of like, oh my God, I dropped my books, now everybody's laughing, and I'm the kid who drops his books all the day, all the time. That's it.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
that's not really true about us. We're way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for sometimes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this arrogance, and it doesn't have to be this fake humility, like, oh well, yeah, like if you have evidence of it and if it's true, it's not bragging. It's not you being a jerk. It's like, oh, I know what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just confidence.
Do you think like a certain amount of like that, I call it like playing small, just comes from the fact of like, if I look at sort of the school system and the way that it is, like the school system was kind of formulated to create good little worker bees.
Yeah.
Good little worker bees for the system. And in that, you kind of do have to fit in with the crowd. You do have to do what everybody around you does. And what we're talking about is kind of coming into your own greatness and standing out from the crowd in your way, whatever that unique way is. So do you think some of that just comes from that kind of conditioning?
Yeah, I would say so. It's like don't brag, don't show good sportsmanship, which is important. But you look at athletes and they celebrate and they're like, oh my goodness, NFL, I'm gonna throw a flag because this guy celebrated. This person just scored a touchdown. Like, let the person express themselves a little bit. Why are we trying to contract and constrict so much? If you do something great, celebrate it. Be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then do it again.
For sure, for sure. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with celebrating yourself, because that's going to bolster your confidence to do whatever it is that you want to do next.
Yeah. It's like
Right?
those movies like, you played a great piano. Oh, but you missed that note. And the whole performance is great, but all you hear in your head is, well, you missed that line, or you missed that step in the dance recital, or hey, you missed a tackle on the field, or you know what, you got a 98 in your test, but you missed that one question. And it's back to me being defective. I'm
Right.
deficient. Oh gosh, that one question, I would have been perfect.
So what would you say, like, how can people find you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, if you want to find me on the socials, as the kids say, I'm at the real Alex Dumas on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. That's the handle for Dumas with the S, is not the dumbass. Like, if you say it to me, if you type it, you're getting blocked immediately. It's like, have you ever seen the commercial? Yes, I've seen the commercial. I know what the commercial is with dumbass and dumbass. I get it. Dumas. All right. That or abundancedaily.com. You can find me on that website and find out more about me, more about my wife's story. She's got some amazing stuff too for the ladies out there. So that's where you can track us down.
Do you guys work together?
We're under the same umbrella. It's a long story of us being together at first and really kind of being like that unit. Then we kind of like spread out, which made more sense because she has her style, I have my style. She works with her clients, I work with mine, and it works.
Yeah. Well, wherever you guys choose to find him on the socials. And so with your daily abundance, like, is that a daily thought or something that you?
Yeah, the quick story of that is it was kind of based on ego. So abundance daily equals the same number of letters as of Alexandre Dumas. Yeah. So that's how it came about. And then I do a daily podcast called Love Serve Care, and I just drop in 3 minutes of like little nuggets and experience, and that's been the way for the last few months now of at least the podcast going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh,
And
thank you for this conversation.
yes, I hope people can find you. So for everybody who's watching, this show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Her network is part of Spanglish World Media. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thanks.